everyone, welcome to this week's video. This week I'm going to show you how I made these vintage bells. These ones here are made with air dried clay. I even put a little bell in them. And these two here are made with a lightweight card with a mix of air dried clay as well to give some dimension. But yeah, I'm very happy with how they turned out, so please continue watching and see how I did it.
Here I start by rolling out the clay in between a couple of layers of cling wrap or glad wrap. You can see the thickness of the clay. It's not overly thick. It's just enough to hold itself in the interim, I guess. I'm rolling it around two things. One is a little ceramic vessel that I have, which just ended up being a really nice size. And I'm also using a cut down paper coffee cup, just for one, to hold it, and two, so it doesn't stick to the ceramic vessel that I'm using. Here I'm just using the knife to push out the top a little bit so it's not quite so flat. It does a little bit rounded. Now for the paper one, it's just a really light cardstock. At a guess, it would be 120 gram, maybe. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check on that. So I'm just, again, using that same vessel, gluing it and slicing little, portions of the top, just so it folds in, and then I'm gluing it so it's like a cylinder with a round top, and I've cut a round circle with a slice in it so it folds around itself. And here I'm just attaching the bell. They're just some bells I picked up in a op shop bag of goodies. When I first did this cardstock one, I actually did a layer of baking soda black paint on it before I did the filler. It seemed to go on better, although the filler went all right. Straight on the card, it adhered more when I'd done the layer of baking soda paint. Whether there's much of a difference in the outcome, because they still look really rustic, so I could get away with either, I guess. But yeah, it was just trial and error and just different ways that I did it. So now I actually baked these for a couple of hours in my dehydrator, and I'm just adding the rings at the bottom. This first one, I add them separately, two lines round separately, and flatten them out. And that's the air dried clay one that I'm working on there. So you can see I've just added the two lines of clay separately, and then I go in and blend them. I'm spraying it with water. I wouldn't advise this. I'd advise what I do, maybe spray a wet patch like I did on the tile and then just dip my hands in. You don't want the clay getting too wet. I'm also using PVA to stick the clay. So this one here, I am just adding a little bit of a rim up the top, blending it in. These are a little bit fragile as I hadn't really let it clay dry long enough before I started working with it again, but it's alright. Just adding the top rim to the cardstock bell. So this one, I just do one line of the clay around the bottom, a thicker line, and I just work it on there and then grab a tool and divide it into two. Just blending the clay onto the card. Again, spraying the vessel, not such a good idea. I should have sprayed the tile and worked with the water down there. Especially on cardstock, because you don't want to get that too wet. So there I am, just dividing the one thick line into the two. I think this method actually worked better than the two. It was certainly much easier to do. I'm just making the handles for the top. The cardstock one actually broke when I was doing something, painting it maybe. So I did end up working with trying the baking soda and super glue trick, and I tell you what, it worked a treat. So if I remember, I will add that at the end of the video and show you how I did it. Lucky they're vintage and they don't need to look perfect because it's very organic. So these went back into the oven for another hour or so. So my dehydrator works at 50 degrees. And it seemed to do the trick actually, enough to be able to work with them in the same day, whereas I would have had to let these dry at least overnight before they were workable. Okay, they're out of the oven and I'm going in with baking soda and black paint. I'm not actually sure why I did the baking soda and black paint. I just knew I was doing it. I don't think I actually had a reason as such, but I'm thinking I did it to add texture, which doesn't actually make sense because bowls don't have texture, they're smooth. But anyway, that's how I did it and they look pretty cool. Actually, I do know why I did it. I was always planning on doing a couple of layers of the gold or in a black afterwards to give it that brass look. And I think I thought that the baking soda would add some texture, which I could get the gold into the grooves and then go over with the black to age it a little bit. So I'm pretty sure that's why I did that without even thinking about it. So this is the cardstock one, and I am painting it with a resin colour called Gold Mine. It's not as garish as the other gold that I had, and it just gives it a underneath the other top, the next layer, it just tones it down nicely. Here I am using isopropyl alcohol and a brass alcohol ink, which is a lot brighter than the resin paint, but they still look good. I'm happy with both. I forgot to put the bell in that one. Oh well. I'll super glue it in later. Not super glue, hot glue. Now I'm just going in with a sponge and a rag, adding the well, essentially is a black wash of the a wash of the black paint, which is just toning down the golds and making it look a little bit aged. On this one I really love how it's gone into the cracks, especially where I fixed it at the top when it broke. All the paint layers done, I am just giving them a varnish with a water-based gloss varnish, just to add a little bit of shine and protection. The varnish is still drying on these, but here's a bit of a close-up. On the second one in, you can see some white on the handle. This is where it is broken and I'm yet to fix it. But I think they turned out really cool. If not lopsided. It's a bit blurry, sorry, but you can see the hardened white baking soda. It's rock hard, so it's now fixed. So then I just went in with a bit of black paint and did the layers of the gold again, and it's all done. So that all done. I'm just adding the jute rope to the top and gonna hang them. So thanks for watching. I hope that you found it interesting. Please like and subscribe. That would be much appreciated. Thank you.